Olivia Carter had always believed that marriage was about partnership, mutual respect, and unconditional support. But after 6 years with Ryan Walker, she had come to realize that her marriage was anything but that. Their luxury penthouse in Manhattan, with its pristine furniture and cold, curated aesthetic, was less of a home and more of a display of one designed for Ryan to impress his colleagues rather than foster love or warmth. Olivia, a dedicated operations manager at a promising tech startup, had spent years walking on eggshells, enduring Ryan's subtle yet cutting criticisms. Whether it was the way she dressed, the way she laughed, or even the way she made coffee, Ryan always had something to correct. His favorite habit was comparing her to the elegant, perfectly poised wives of his colleagues, women who, in his mind, set the standard for what a banker's wife should be. That night, the breaking point came over something so small it would have been laughable if it weren't so tragic. Olivia had picked up the wrong brand of sparkling water, a minor oversight, but one that Ryan used as yet another opportunity to undermine her. "Honestly, Olivia, it's like you don't even try," he sighed, shaking his head in disappointment as he loosened his tie. "How hard is it to pay attention to the details? You're an operations manager, aren't you?" His smirk was the final straw, the same condescending expression he wore when he corrected her choice of words at dinner parties, or made offhand remarks about how she should be more refined. But this time, Olivia didn't apologize. She didn't scramble to fix the problem. Instead, she just looked at him. Ryan, in his perfectly pressed designer suit, with his carefully styled hair and that air of superiority, was a man who had built his confidence on making her feel small. And for the first time, she saw him for what he really was: fragile, insecure, and desperate to control everything around him. A slow, unfamiliar calm settled over Olivia. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't cry. She simply placed the bottle of water on the counter and turned away, grabbing her gym bag as she headed for the door. "Where are you going?" Ryan asked, his voice laced with irritation. Olivia paused for just a moment before replying, "To the gym." The words were true, but for the first time, she wasn't going to work out because Ryan had made a comment about her body. She wasn't going because she felt pressured to meet some unrealistic standard of perfection. She was going because she needed space, to think, to breathe, to remind herself of who she was before Ryan had slowly chipped away at her confidence. Ryan scoffed behind her. "Don't be dramatic," he muttered. "I'm just trying to help you improve." Improve? As if she were some kind of project he had taken on, a fixer-upper that had failed to meet his high standards. As Olivia stepped into the elevator, she didn't feel the usual weight of Ryan's disapproval pressing down on her. Instead, she felt something she hadn't experienced in a long time: clarity. For years, she had believed that if she just tried harder, if she just did things the way Ryan wanted, maybe he would finally see her as enough. But now she understood the truth. No amount of effort would ever be enough for a man who thrived on making her feel lesser, and just like that, the seed of her escape was planted. Ryan thought she would never leave. He thought she would always tolerate his superiority, his condescension, his need to control. But he was wrong. Olivia wasn't just going to the gym that night. She was taking the first step toward reclaiming her life, and Ryan had no idea what was coming. The moment Olivia stepped out of the penthouse that night, something shifted inside her. The air felt different, lighter, freer. It wasn't just about going to the gym anymore. It was about regaining control, piece by piece, of a life she had slowly let slip away under Ryan's constant scrutiny. As she jogged on the treadmill, her mind wasn't on the calories burned or the numbers flashing on the screen. It was on the life she had built with Ryan, one that revolved entirely around his expectations, his needs, and his approval. How had she let herself shrink so much? The realization hit her hard. Ryan had never loved her for who she was. He had loved the idea of molding her into the perfect wife, someone who would never outshine him, never challenge him, never be anything more than an extension of his own success. That night, as she left the gym, she made a quiet but powerful decision. She was done letting Ryan define her worth. The next morning, Olivia took the first tangible steps toward her independence. She reached out to an old friend, Mia Thompson, a fiery and unapologetically ambitious fashion designer whom Ryan had always disliked. "He never liked me because I saw through his crap," Mia said bluntly over coffee. "You deserve better, Liv." Those words resonated more than Olivia expected. Encouraged by Mia's support, she scheduled a meeting with a divorce lawyer, something she had thought about in fleeting moments over the years but never dared to pursue. This time, there was no hesitation. She also opened a separate bank account, one Ryan had no access to, and quietly started transferring portions of her salary into it. Ryan, of course, remained blissfully unaware. He was too consumed with his own world, his business meetings, and his constant need to impress his colleagues. He still made his usual remarks, subtle digs at Olivia's wardrobe, suggestions on how she should carry herself in social settings, reminders that she was comfortable in her job rather than ambitious. But this time his words didn't sting, they only reinforced Olivia's decision to leave. At work, something incredible started happening. She began taking risks. For years she had hesitated to step up, always hearing Ryan's voice in her head telling her she wasn't ready for leadership, that she should stay in her lane. But when an opportunity arose to lead a major operations project, she took it. And she thrived. Her boss, Ethan Reynolds, noticed the change immediately, calling her into his office one afternoon. "You've always had the potential, Olivia. I'm just glad you're finally stepping into it." That was the moment Olivia knew she had spent too many years waiting for permission to be great, but she wasn't waiting anymore. She had 4 weeks until she walked out of Ryan's life for good. And with each passing day, with every move she made toward her independence, she felt more like herself again. Olivia's transformation didn't happen overnight, but with each passing day, she felt herself regaining the confidence Ryan had spent years chipping away. The changes were subtle at first. She stopped second-guessing herself in meetings, stopped downplaying her ideas, and started speaking up with the assurance she once had before Ryan's influence. When her boss, Ethan Reynolds, called her in to review the success of her latest project, she braced herself for the usual self-doubt, but instead she felt something new: pride. "Your leadership on this has been outstanding," Ethan said. "Have you ever thought about stepping into a higher role?" Olivia had thought about it, many times, but Ryan's voice had always been there, whispering in the back of her mind, telling her she wasn't ready, that she should be content. This time she ignored that voice. "Actually, I have," she admitted, and for the first time she allowed herself to believe she deserved more. Outside of work, Olivia started making bolder choices in her personal life as well. She spent more time with Mia, laughing over drinks and reminiscing about the version of herself she had lost. "I swear, I haven't seen you this happy in years," Mia observed one evening as they browsed through a boutique in Soho. That's when Olivia spotted it, a striking red dress, bold and confident, everything Ryan would hate. Without hesitation, she bought it. It wasn't for him. It wasn't for anyone but her. A statement that she was done blending into the background. Meanwhile, Olivia's preparations for her departure were in full motion. Her secret bank account was growing, her lawyer had laid out the divorce plan, and she had signed the lease on a beautiful modern loft in Brooklyn. A place filled with natural light, vibrant colors, and warmth, the exact opposite of the cold, lifeless penthouse she had shared with Ryan. She moved her belongings little by little, making sure not to alert him. Ryan, of course, remained completely oblivious. He still expected Olivia to play the role of the compliant wife, still made his usual demands. "We have an important business dinner coming up," he reminded her one morning over coffee. "The partners' wives will be there. Try to wear something appropriate this time, yeah?" Olivia smiled as she sipped her coffee. He had no idea. By then, her COO interview at Maxwell and Brooks was scheduled, and if everything went according to plan, she wouldn't just be showing up to that dinner as Ryan's wife, she'd be showing up as the most powerful woman in the room. For years, Olivia had let Ryan's criticisms define her, but now she was rebuilding herself, piece by piece, and with every choice she made for herself, not for him. She realized something important. She had never been the problem. Ryan had, and soon, the world, including Ryan, was going to see exactly what she was capable of. The night of the exclusive business gala at the five-star hotel arrived, and Olivia was ready. But not in the way Ryan expected. This was the moment she had orchestrated down to the smallest detail, the night where she wouldn't just walk into the room as his wife, but as the woman he had underestimated for years. In the days leading up to the event, she had secured the Chief Operations Officer position at Maxwell and Brooks, officially signing the contract that afternoon. Ryan had spent the entire week barking orders, reminding her to look presentable and not embarrass him in front of his esteemed colleagues. He had even laid out the dress he wanted her to wear, a conservative navy tulle gown he had chosen for her months ago, an outfit meant to make her blend into the background. Olivia smiled when she saw it hanging in the closet. She had something else in mind. When she arrived at the gala, she stepped through the grand doors in the striking red dress she had bought with Mia, a dress that was bold, powerful, and everything Ryan despised. The moment she entered, heads turned. She could see Ryan standing near the bar, deep in conversation with his senior partners, a glass of whiskey in his hand. He hadn't noticed her yet. She could already predict his reaction, the subtle narrowing of his eyes, the barely contained irritation at her audacity to defy his expectations. But Olivia wasn't concerned with Ryan's reaction. She was here for herself. As she approached the table, one of Ryan's colleagues, David Sterling, a high-profile investor, turned to her with a welcoming smile. "Olivia, we've heard a lot about you." Before Ryan could speak, before he could control the narrative like he always did, Olivia extended her hand with effortless confidence. "All good things, I hope," she said smoothly. "I imagine Ryan has kept me in the background all these years." A few of the partners chuckled at her honesty, while Ryan's forced smile twitched slightly. "Olivia's been quite busy lately," he said quickly, attempting to downplay the moment. But the real blow came when another guest, Jonathan Crane, a senior executive at Maxwell and Brooks, joined the conversation. "Busy indeed," he said, shaking her hand. "Congratulations again, Olivia. We're thrilled to have you joining Maxwell and Brooks as our new Chief Operations Officer." Silence. The words hung in the air like a live grenade, and Olivia watched Ryan's entire demeanor shift, his confident posture stiffening, his smile faltering, his grip tightening around his glass. One of Ryan's partners repeated, clearly impressed. "That's a huge role. Maxwell and Brooks has been out competing some of the biggest firms lately." Olivia nodded, unfazed. "Yes, it's an incredible opportunity. I'll be leading some major restructuring efforts." Ryan, who had spent years making Olivia feel small, had no words. For the first time in their marriage, he was the one overshadowed. As the dinner continued, Olivia watched with quiet amusement as Ryan tried to salvage his image, throwing in disjointed comments about how he had always encouraged her ambitions. But it was too late. His colleagues were already viewing Olivia in a new light. Not as Ryan's wife, but as a force of her own. When the evening came to a close, Ryan finally pulled Olivia aside, his face tight with anger. "What the hell was that?" he hissed under his breath. "You should have told me." Olivia met his gaze with calm indifference. "I didn't need to." This was her moment, and Ryan was finally realizing that he no longer controlled the narrative. Ryan's grip on Olivia's arm tightened as he pulled her away from the mingling guests, his carefully constructed mask of charm cracking at the edges. The polished, confident investment banker was gone. What remained was a man who was losing control, and he knew it. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" he hissed, voice low but sharp. "You embarrass me in front of my colleagues." His eyes flicked around the room as if making sure no one was watching too closely. Olivia remained calm, gently prying his fingers off her arm. "I think you're confusing embarrassment with exposure, Ryan," she said evenly. "You didn't expect me to be someone worth noticing, did you? That's the problem. You spent 6 years making sure I stayed small, but you never considered what would happen when I finally stopped listening to you." His jaw clenched, the muscles in his face twitching with barely contained frustration. "This isn't you, Olivia. This attitude, this power move," he scoffed. "It's not who you are. You've changed." A slow smile spread across her face, and for the first time in years, Olivia felt nothing but pity for the man standing in front of her. "No, Ryan, I've just stopped letting you define me," she said, "and that terrifies you, doesn't it?" Ryan inhaled sharply, his arrogance cracking under the weight of the moment. "You're making a mistake," he tried again, softer this time. "You're letting success go to your head. You're throwing away everything we built together." Olivia let out a quiet laugh, shaking her head. "What we built together?" she repeated. "Ryan, you built a life where I was nothing more than a reflection of you. Every decision I made had to fit into the version of me you wanted. My career? Not ambitious enough. My friends? Too independent. My appearance? Never quite right. The truth is, I spent years waiting for you to love me for who I was, but you were too busy trying to mold me into someone who made you feel big." His face paled. For the first time, he had no comeback. Olivia took a step forward, lowering her voice just enough so only he could hear. "And here's the best part," she continued. "I'm not asking you for anything. Not a cent, not the penthouse, not the furniture you picked. You can keep your perfect little world, Ryan, because I don't need any of it." A flicker of panic crossed his face. "Wait, Olivia?" She tilted her head slightly, watching him with detached amusement. "Let me guess. Now you'll say you'll change? You'll be better? Maybe even therapy this time?" She sighed. "You had 6 years, Ryan. 6 years of watching me fade into the background while you thrived. I begged you to meet me halfway. You didn't. And now?" She glanced toward the exit, where her new life was waiting. "Now you get to live with the consequences." Ryan was speechless. As Olivia turned to walk away, she heard one of his senior partners call out from behind them. "Everything all right, Ryan?" Ryan forced a smile, but Olivia could see it. The unraveling had begun. Without another word, she left the gala, head held high, walking toward the future that Ryan had spent years convincing her she wasn't worthy of. He was wrong, and now the whole world knew it. Walking out of that gala felt like shedding years of invisible weight, and as Olivia stepped into the crisp New York night, she let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. There was no sadness, no regret, just relief. The life she had spent years trying to fit into was finally behind her, and ahead was something she hadn't felt in a long time: freedom. Within days, the fallout of that night rippled through Ryan's world like a tidal wave. His colleagues, once admiring his confidence and leadership, now whispered about the way his ex-wife, had outshined him in his own circle. His senior partners, the same men who had once respected him, saw his fragility for the first time. Olivia heard from mutual acquaintances that the firm was reevaluating Ryan's role, after several junior associates came forward with complaints about his management style. The cracks in his carefully curated image were now too wide to ignore. Meanwhile, Olivia had never felt more alive. She moved into her Brooklyn loft, filling it with the colors Ryan would have hated: deep blues, warm yellows, vibrant greens. No more neutral tones meant to make a space sophisticated. This was her space, built for comfort and joy, not for appearances. With Mia's help, she reconnected with old friends, hosted dinner parties where laughter replaced careful etiquette, and reclaimed the parts of herself she had sacrificed to keep Ryan happy. At work, she thrived. Her first few weeks as COO of Maxwell & Brooks were exhilarating, demanding, and deeply fulfilling. Unlike her time with Ryan, where she had second-guessed every decision, here, she stepped into her power fully. She ran meetings with confidence, led high-stakes negotiations, and mentored young women in the company. Determined to help others escape the same doubts she had once carried, her newfound confidence didn't go unnoticed. Ethan Reynolds, her old boss, reached out one evening. "I just wanted to say, I always knew you had it in you," he admitted. "I'm just glad you finally saw it too." Ryan, of course, tried to regain control. He sent texts, some angry, some pleading, attempting to manipulate her back into his life. "You're making a mistake, Olivia. This isn't who you are." She didn't reply. Instead, she forwarded each message to her lawyer. His last desperate attempt came when he showed up at her office unannounced, still in his expensive suit. But the confidence was gone. "We had a good life," he said, voice almost trembling. "Come home." Olivia just smiled. "Ryan, I am home." That was the last time she saw him. From then on, she was too busy living the life she was always meant to have. Ryan had tried to break her, but all he had done was set her free. A year after Olivia walked away from Ryan, she stood in the same five-star hotel ballroom where her life had changed forever. But this time, she wasn't there as someone's wife. She was there as the keynote speaker, an accomplished chief operations officer at Maxwell & Brooks, and one of the most respected women in the tech industry. As she took the stage, she scanned the room, recognizing many of the same faces from that fateful night. But tonight, there was no condescending husband waiting to minimize her achievements, no shadow of self-doubt creeping into her thoughts. There was only Olivia Carter, bold, powerful, and completely in control of her own narrative. In the past year, everything had fallen into place in ways Olivia had never dared to imagine. Her company had soared under her leadership, landing major contracts and positioning itself as one of the most influential firms in the industry. She had become a mentor to young women, speaking at events, sharing her journey, and helping others recognize their worth before they wasted years waiting for permission to be great. Her name was no longer attached to Ryan's. It stood on its own, strong and respected. Ryan, on the other hand, had not fared as well. His firm had quietly let him go months after the gala, citing irreconcilable differences in leadership style. Olivia had heard through mutual acquaintances that he had taken a position at a much smaller firm, where he was no longer the golden boy, no longer admired or feared. He had also been cycling through younger women, trying to recreate the same controlling dynamic he had once had with Olivia. But it was clear his old tactics were no longer working. The image of success he had once crafted so meticulously had crumbled beyond repair. At the gala, Olivia found herself approached by several of Ryan's former colleagues' wives, the same women he used to compare her to. But tonight, they weren't standing in quiet judgment. They were standing in admiration. "We should have said something sooner," one of them admitted. "We saw how he used to treat you, but look at you now. You're thriving." Olivia simply smiled, because she already knew that. As the night drew to a close, she stepped outside onto the hotel balcony, the New York skyline stretching before her. A soft breeze carried the distant hum of the city, and for the first time in years, she felt completely at peace. She had escaped the life that had once confined her and built something infinitely better. Her freedom was her greatest victory, and the best part? She had done it all on her own. When Mia found her outside, drink in hand, she smirked. If Ryan could see you now, he'd die. Olivia laughed, a full, genuine laugh, the kind she had almost forgotten she was capable of. Good, she said, raising her glass in a silent toast. Let him watch. Olivia's journey teaches a powerful lesson. Never let someone else define your worth. For years, she lived under Ryan's control, believing she wasn't ambitious enough, strong enough, or worthy of success. His criticisms weren't love. They were a way to keep her small, to make sure she never outgrew him. But the moment she stopped seeking his approval and started believing in herself, everything changed. Her story proves that true empowerment comes from within. She didn't just leave Ryan. She rebuilt herself, her career, her friendships, and most importantly, her confidence. By walking away from someone who constantly diminished her, she made room for a life that celebrated her strengths instead of suppressing them. Another key takeaway is that growth often comes from the courage to walk away. Olivia's success didn't begin when she got promoted. It began when she decided to put herself first. Toxic relationships, whether romantic or professional, can quietly destroy self-esteem, but once she recognized her own potential, nothing could stop her. In the end, Olivia didn't just survive, she thrived. Her story reminds us that sometimes the best revenge isn't proving someone wrong, it's proving yourself right.